getting into the conversation, the matter of things in this morning. So Thulizi Galala is a young trailblazer who's planning to transform the interpreting profession. She's a 30-year-old, is one of the only 11 interpreters in the South African Sign Language for English field who are accredited with the SA Translation Institute. This first ever, she's also the first interpreter in the country to translate a podcast into the South African Sign Language. I mean, talk about removing barriers. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning on Power Breakfast. Good morning to you.
Morning, Faith. Morning, Bob. And morning to the Power Breakfast listeners. Hello.
Morning.
Morning. I mean, as a young person, kudos. We give you absolute accolades in this because this is known as really you're the first interpreter in the country to translate a podcast into South African Sign Language. Take us back. What do we mean by interpreter? What do we mean by this podcast? Tell us all about it.
Sure. So where did it all begin? So I studied at Wits University and I studied, my major actually, the plan was to study psychology. Psychology sounds like a very solid career that you want to go into. And one of the subjects that you have to choose was SASL, South African Sign Language. And I found it very fascinating. Honestly, it wasn't the plan to be an interpreter. I think it's something that I stumbled upon along the way. And I took it very seriously. I worked hard only to find that I'm actually quite good at this. And the rest is history. I dropped psychology and I pursued a career in SASL. So what's also quite important to know is that you need to be fluent in the language. So whatever language you choose, it could be a spoken or a visual language, for example, SASL, but you also need to master the skill of interpreting. It's not the same thing. There's a big misconception that if you know the basics of, for example, SASL, then you can quickly become a professional interpreter, and that's not true. This perception is causing a big disservice to the communities that we serve. So learn the language, be fluent, and then master the skill of interpreting.
Look, I must say that it's become such a pertinent conversation around, sign language and then the people who actually sign, as well the interpreters that actually sign, where you get even from some members of the deaf community saying, listen, we don't understand what you're saying because you may not be accredited or you may be speaking a different translate or dialect. Is it even a dialect than the ones that are supposed to be known or they're supposed to be accredited? So there's almost like a disconnect, and that allows for the language in itself not to be coherent and discredits really those who need it the most.
Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of people that built the foundation. There's people that came before us. We've got mentors that really built the foundation, making sure that this language is taken and the profession is really showcased. So it's important to be involved in the community that we serve. So you must be an active person in the deaf community. I am one who goes for training and formal training, so I really support accreditation. As you know, there's only 11 such accredited interpreters in the country. Can you imagine? We need more awareness. We need more people taking up and taking the exam and taking the stand to be accredited. You need to have mentorship as well. These are things that have helped me to journey my profession and to get me to where I am.
Well then, Thuli, if you're saying only 11 interpreters, so these are the individuals that are able to translate, let's say, that the English-speaking medium or whatever language into SASL, right?
Yes.
Then if there are only 11, I mean, one wonders if you, for example, have got a sign language interpreter in your organization, is that individual, are we doing the due diligence enough to ensure that that person is indeed accredited so that we don't find ourselves delivering content that is not even, that's not content that is spoken?
That's a great question, Faith. I think because there's little awareness about the industry as a whole, there's very little awareness about the deaf community as a whole. I think it's important that, the forerunners of organizations, they are amazing forerunners that can be the ones leading and spreading the awareness about finding reputable interpreters. There are agencies and organizations where you can get the information. So I think it's just about people spreading the awareness. I hope that I'm also changing the narrative about fake interpreters and showcasing the skill that is possible. You can be a professional interpreter and you can make a difference and connect and bridge the gap between communication with people with different languages.
Well, we definitely did see once upon a time in the South African context the results of having a fake interpreter. One such happened at the funeral proceedings of the former head of state, Nelson Mandela. We do not want to go back to that dark age, for everybody. Hey, I think even the SASL community, let's not go back there ever. Let's talk a little bit about this first ever sign language supported podcast. How does it work?
Absolutely. So I love podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. I love the fact that podcasts allow you to choose. You can choose your content. You've got the freedom to choose the content where you choose where you want to listen to it and the actual content that is delivered to you. So I listen to a lot of themes such as entrepreneurship, young people, anything that you really want to listen to. And it clicked to me one day that this wealth of information that I'm listening to at a daily basis is not accessible to the direct community that I'm involved in. And how can we make this happen? I think fate may have it that I was also at a time where I wanted to challenge myself and I wanted to try out new things. So I took a risk and I left my full-time job. I resigned in pursuit of pursuing my dreams and trying this out. I approached a prominent online digital platform and I proposed the idea and they really took a risk on me and I guess the risk paid off because we were the first and we're very proud to say that this collaboration was the first of making content a wealth of knowledge, the world of podcasts accessible to a wider audience, to accommodate them and to make information more inclusive and to empower them to make more informed decisions in their daily lives wherever they find themselves.
In closing, Tuli, what kind of damage, are we able to quantify the kind of damage done by a one Thamsanqa Janji?
I think it makes the profession a bit tainted. So people are skeptical when you say, to this day, I tell you, people still ask me about it. They ask you, it will never go away.
Yeah.
It's 10 steps forward and 20 steps back. The work that we have put in, it's now more work for us, people that are professionals. You can imagine the people that are the forerunners as well, that laid the foundation. Their work was completely erased. Now we have to work even harder to make sure that this is true. We are professionals. It's possible to actually take this career seriously. I think in a more positive light, I don't think the community would have been highlighted should something like that happen. So it depends on how you look at it, but there's a lot more work that has to be done in making sure that the awareness and the skill of professional interpreters is put out there.
Power to you, Tuli, accredited South African Sign Language interpreter. That Thamsanqa Janji really did some damage there, interpreting at Nelson Mandela's funeral. It was such a disgrace. We were a laughing stock to the world.